Chibok Girls,
never to be forgotten.
Dapchi Girls,
Never to be forgotten.
Dapchi Girls,
Never to be forgotten.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now and alive.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now and alive.
What are we fighting for?
The soul of Nigeria.
When shall we stop?
Not until our girls are back and alive.
When shall we stop?
Not without our daughters.
Who are we?
Chibok Girls.
Who are we?
Nigerians.
What's our core value?
Humanities.
Please be seated. We are infuriated at the exactness of the blunders that led to the latest abduction of 110 schoolgirls in another state of the country, with what happened when Chibok Girls were abducted in 2014. The magnitude of incompetence and carelessness of our government enabled the repeat of the worst abduction tragedy. This is more so because in only a few days, it would be 4 years since the remaining 112 Chibok girls still in captivity with their abductors were taken. If the federal government of Nigeria is to be believed at all, 110 Dapchi girls have now joined our Chibok girls in terrorist captivity. How shocking. Our movement is numbed by the rudest and unexpected shock that instead of the return of our remaining 112 girls ahead of the possible 4th anniversary of their abduction, we are now faced with the calamity of additional losses. This monumental scale of repeat tragedy of the abduction of 110 Dapchi girls in circumstances that are entirely similar to that of our Chibok girls has compelled a period of deep contemplation by our movement. We have taken time to reflect on and to identify the key factors that permit repeat performance of actions as a result of non-consequential failure by our various administrations in Nigeria. The fact that there is no consequence in governments failing to care for the safety and security of our children and citizens more broadly has led to repeat performance. While undergoing our period of reflection, our movement has generated a racket of disturbing questions for the federal and Yobe state governments. Our questions are premised on the troubling sparseness of information so far provided on the Dapchi Girls tragedy by the federal government. We, the Bring Back Our Girls movement, therefore advise the federal and Yobe state governments to be swift in responding to the following questions. Number one question: how was a terrorist group that the federal government has over the last 1 year, and in fact only a week before the abduction of our Dapchi School Girls, informed the Nigerian public that it had completely defeated, still able to successfully launch an attack and abduct 110 schoolgirls in their school without any counter reaction by the Nigerian military? How? How is it possible? How is it that there was no early warning signal that was in place as part of the security architecture for areas like Dapchi, well within the theater of war? We ask for the truth, nothing but the truth. Number two question: how could a school in northeast Nigeria, located in one of the three most terrorism-affected states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, be so negligently abandoned without any form of security and surveillance, and left vulnerable to the attack of February 19, 2018. What happened to the Safe School initiative that was signed onto by the federal government of Nigeria in 2014, and to which it committed $10 million alongside other donations by several donors, including members of the international community? Number 3 question: why was there at first a denial of the abduction of our Dapchi girls by officials of government? Where and how did the falsehood that no abduction took place at the time of the attack originate, leaving enough time for the abductors to succeed in disappearing with 110 schoolgirls? Why did this deliberate attempt at a cover-up of a humongous tragedy happen at all? Why? Number 4 question: following from 3 above, what was the basis and the source of the false information to parents and to the public that about half of 110 Dapchi School Girls had been rescued and in military custody when the government knew that not to be so? To build a nation where peace. What are we asking for? What are we asking for? What do we want? What do we want? What are we fighting for? What are we fighting for?
Provides that the security and welfare of every citizen in Nigeria shall be the primary purpose of government. Number 1, I am saying that Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution provides that the security and welfare of the Nigerian people shall be the primary purpose of governance. 2, Section 35 of the Constitution provides for the right to personal liberty. In other words, no citizen of Nigeria can be abducted or seized or even detained illegally without a reaction by the government. So that duty has been breached in the case of the Chibok as well as Dapchi Girls. And why it is worse in this case, as has been made clear in the press conference, is that having regards to the facts and circumstances of the development in that part of the country, it is intolerable, it is unacceptable that the same manner of abduction took place. Are we being told that there was no security for those schools in the Northeast region? And just like what happened in 2014, and if you recall, I was announced as a member of the Sabo committee, and I had to make it clear to the Jonathan government, I'm not going to be part of the joke of setting up a panel after girls have been abducted. To do what? But why it is worse, again, as has been made clear, once you do not punish impunity, you are going to have criminality repeated all over the place. Now we are being told that the committee has been set up by the same people. To do what? It can only be to cover up. So if you want to challenge what has been done, by now we'll expect the government to have fired those who were responsible. And those 14 questions are very germane. Particularly, who withdrew the forces on ground? To whom was security handed over? And if nobody can provide answers, people have to be sanctioned for what has happened in other areas. These guys should have been put on trial. So we're not just going to call to demand for the search for the girl. We're also going to ask for sanction to be meted out for this act of criminal negligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
The government has not given itself any benefit of the doubt in the way and manner it has gone about this matter. If you have a governor of a state who will not visit a scene of criminality as in this instance, what benefit of the doubt are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm sure you're also aware that for the first time since 1960, Nigerians and foreigners who came here to ask for asylum were abducted and thrown out of our country. So what are you talking about? We are simply saying that the quality of life means nothing to our government. The security of Nigerians means nothing to our government. So when you have a matter repeated daily, I mean, look at what is going on. The president said in Benue yesterday, the president of the republic told everybody in Benue yesterday, to our utter chagrin, that I do not know that my instruction for security was disobeyed, disregarded by the Inspector General of Police. And that may be the end of the matter. So what benefit of the doubt can we be talking about? Our duty as citizens, and as far as this movement is concerned, and I think the movement has taken the right decision, i.e., we are going to court. The government has set up a panel. Let other citizens feel concerned that the assault by the terrorists in Yobe State, in Borno State, is an assault on all of us as a people. So if you have an organization since 2014 that has been crying for justice in the case of Chibok Girls, now Dapchi Girls, we can only ask the government to clear the doubt on ground. So that is why those 14 questions have to be addressed. And you guys in the media must help to ensure that those 14 questions are answered by the government. Thank you.
Any Chibok Girls?
Never to be forgotten.
Dapchi Girls?
Never to be forgotten.
Dapchi Girls?
Never to be forgotten.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now and alive.
What are we demanding?
Bring back our girls now and alive.
What are we fighting for?
The soul of Nigeria.
When shall we stop?
Not until our girls are back and alive.
When shall we stop?
Not without our daughters.
Who are we?
Chibok Girls.
Who are we?
Nigerians.
What's our core value?
Humanities.
Please be seated.